In Flannery O'Connor's book, Wise Blood, the protagonist Hazel Motes is a man on a mission to root out every element of his Christian upbringing he has in him, especially the doctrines of salvation and original sin. After experiencing the horrors of the First World War, he becomes sort of an anti-preacher, fighting against his own internal struggles to finally accept and find the salvation he can't admit he is longing for. In doing so, he becomes an avowed atheist and declares that he is going to found an anti-God church, about which he says, "I'm a member and preacher to that church, where the blind don't see and the lame don't walk, and what's dead stays that way." I can't help but think about this quote when hearing about the world of the Gospels on the first day of the week following the crucifixion. Perplexed, terrified, dismissive, amazed. This is how Jesus' followers respond to the growing awareness that Jesus was not dead. It didn't make sense to them. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. None of them, not a one, expected to discover Jesus was alive again on that morning. Not that they didn't have opportunity to know in advance what was to happen. The Synoptic Gospels present 3 occasions where Jesus tells his followers that these things were to happen. Therefore, the men who appear are able to say that Jesus had foretold these things in Galilee, following the scene where Jesus had been transfigured on the mountain. But their conception of the world, the work of God, and the person of Jesus was unable to accommodate the events that would unfold that morning. And so they are mystified to find a tomb with no body. It takes the reminding of the men in dazzling clothes to jog their memories that these things had been told to them in advance. But they were not alone, because as they travel back to the disciples and the others gathered with them, their accounts are dismissed by those who hear them being shared. They are cast off as telling an idle tale, as though they're delusional or being deceitful. It's hard to understand how in the midst of such great news that one could absolutely refuse to believe. Peter alone goes to the tomb, and when he sees what the women saw, he too becomes amazed at what had happened. One of the most striking facets about how Jesus is presented to us in the scriptures is that people are consistently amazed by the person that they meet. For the great majority of people in the Gospels who interact with Jesus, few walk away without being in some way amazed by the person whom they've met. The dead are raised to new life. The lame pick up their mats and go home, and the dead are raised to new life. But it's not only those who perceive good things in Jesus that are amazed, but even those opposed to him are silenced when Jesus outmaneuvers the traps that they have set for him. It's so easy for us to take for granted how earth-shattering the reality of the risen Christ can be. Easter was less than a week ago, and already it's tempting to come to a reading like our gospel here today and to wish maybe we could just move on. We've heard this already. We've heard these sermons, and I don't know what I can add to this conversation this morning. But that's always the danger with familiarity, that we lose sight of the magnificence before us. The beauty and majesty begins to be lost on us, and we become bored with it. When is the last time that you looked at the body of Christ up on the cross and felt put off by its disfigurement? When is the last time that you paid any attention to it at all, as it hangs above our gathering every day that we meet here? But if we pay attention to the ways that others responded to these things, being perplexed, being terrified, being dismissive, or being amazed, we can be pulled from the dullness of our senses into the dazzling light of God's love for you and me and be filled with wonder and awe once again. Their response reminds us that something big is happening here, something that once filled us with the same wonder when we first heard the message. Their response helps us tap into our own souls once again and feel what we did once. The mundane can become fresh again. May that which is magnificent never become mundane to us. And may the risen Christ always fill us with mystery, wonder, and awe.